In this screencast, we will show you how to search the digital press corpus using the named entities identified by the demonstrator. First of all, let's go over what a named entity is. It is a referential linguistic expression consisting of identifying some textual objects such as the names of a person, place, organization, or even human production. Several cultural institutions and projects have experimented with named entity recognition, or NER, an essential component in several areas of natural language processing, or NLP, from the perspective of distant reading, so as to facilitate the work of researchers within large corpora. As part of the NewsEye project, thanks to the close collaboration of teams of computer scientists and digital humanists, the tool available on the platform thus makes it possible to contextualize research and obtain important information on the chosen topic. Although the prospect of multilingual use is not fully developed, it is one of the objectives of the project and gives rise to several experiments. In practice, once on the NewsEye platform, the named entities appear in the menu on the left, with the tabs Persons, Locations, Organizations, and Human Productions, but also within a document during the consultation, as we see here on the right. So, how can we use the information indexed and linked to the Wikidata database? In short, how do you do research with named entities? Part 1. Extracting information and spotting trends. Firstly, the named entities can be useful to identify which are the outstanding personalities for a topic or what are the places and organizations involved. This first investigation will therefore allow us to spot trends and extract information that can then be used in new research aimed at refining our question. For this demonstration, we decided to explore the theme of women's suffrage through named entities and the French journalistic corpora available on the NewsEye platform. But it is of course also possible to extend this research to other languages or from a multilingual perspective. To this end, and this will be the first step in any research with named entities, we will start by selecting the search by article, as well as the exact search. This is important in order to search a restricted unit and not on the number scale. Then we will do an occurrence search with the keywords vote and women, to which we will apply the proximity filter 10, which will refine the search by bringing up the documents which will contain these two terms, separated by 10 words maximum. We could of course have selected other keywords such as women's suffrage or women's right to vote following the same procedure, or this can be done as a second step. Once the search has started, we can see several named entities appearing. Searching by person, firstly, reveals several names. First, Herbert Asquith, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1908 to 1916. When you click on his name, the articles that mention him teach us that he was fiercely opposed to women's suffrage and the English suffrage movement. He had conflicting relations with them, as shown in this article, which relates a confrontation. One can also spot the arguments given by Asquith, who stated that there is no indication that women want this right to vote. The other advantage of the work done with named entities is that they are linked to a Wikidata notice, which allows us with a single click to access information about the person mentioned. In the case of Asquith, if we didn't know who he was, a simple link on the record within the document reveals his identity to us. Even if not all entities are currently linked to Wikidata, this initial information is already very useful and shows us the benefits provided by this tool. Unlike Asquith, the second person who appears, Braque, whose real name is Alexandre Marie Desrousseaux, militated in favor of women's rights. This named entity search reveals his involvement in the debate and the use of a pseudonym, while an occurrence search with his name would have generated a lot of noise. The persons filter also allows us to identify Maria, a French freethinker, lawyer, and feminist, and to discover her opinions on suffragettes, as well as her actions as a jurist. We can also identify Emmeline Pankhurst, a British feminist politician best known for organizing the British suffragette movement and helping women gain the right to vote in Britain. But besides these two important women in the fight for their rights, the person filter for named entities allows us to see that the debate was mainly polarized by high-status political decision-makers. The locations filter, meanwhile, shows us that the press was primarily interested in the situation in France, and particularly in Paris, which was also due to the selection of press titles that make up the French corpus. All Parisian dailies, except La Fronde, referred to the events taking place in England, which is not surprising because it was the place where the suffragette movement was born. Thus, this filter by location allows us to bring up articles that deal with the situation in one country or city, and also to identify more easily the demonstrations, parades, and meetings that took place there. Concerning organizations, the strong presence of the Senate, the House of Representatives, or even the Parliament shows that the question of the women's right to vote was at the heart of the political debate and allows us to navigate between the different institutions to retrace the history of political discussions and decisions. We can thus observe the opposition between the Chamber of Deputies, which systematically spoke out for women's rights, while the Senate blocked this debate. This is particularly noticeable in 1935, as shown by the frequency analysis graph. The human production filter allows us, for example, to update the press reports inserted in the newspapers by the Havas agency. We thus find, for instance, one of the articles mentioning Maria Veron, which gives us an additional indication as to the origin of the information contained in the article. This filter constitutes another entry which allows us to identify effectively which are the journalistic organizations or press agencies mentioned. Finally, for all these filters, once the first selection of named entities is made, we can see the other people, places, and organizations mentioned in the new selection and then map networks. Part 2. Refining the search, full-text search, and workspace. Once this first step has been carried out, you can use the names, organizations, and places which you have collected in order to carry out more precise searches by probing. You can do this, for example, by typing the name of a personality that has emerged and combining it with research on the women's right to vote. For instance, the search Maria Veron vote will allow us to find new results which had not been identified by the tool in the previous search because at this stage, the tool does not correctly locate named entities in titles and signatures that appear without context. Thus, while the first step has allowed us to discover trends and striking figures, this new one is useful for carrying out more precise research. It also displays the named entities linked to this new query, among which we find names already present in the general search. Finally, it is also possible to search for named entities in your workspace within a dataset. To do this, simply create a dataset. If you are unsure about how to do this, we invite you to watch the tutorial created previously. This has the advantage of bringing together articles from several studies. For example, here we have created a dataset entitled Women's Vote/Suffrage, in which we have added several articles from different searches for occurrences: women's suffrage, women's vote, women's right to vote. We can thus locate the entities most frequently present in the dataset. It is also possible to compose subcorpora and sort the articles by relevance before doing this search.